Elizabeth? 25. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. And we're so happy to do this and to have you here today. So we hope you enjoy the day, enjoy the talks. They all look very different and very interesting. So enjoy it, and we'll see you in a little while. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, so let's rock and roll. And give a warm welcome to our first speaker and our first monitor, Elizabeth and Dr. Hemraj Kafel. Welcome. The floor is all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Well, building bridges, building cooperation, fantastic. I'm representing TESOL Italy here today, and I want to introduce you to our first speaker, Hemraj Kafel, PhD from Nelta, Nepal. Hem, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon from Nepal. Thank you very much for having me here. Am I audible? Okay. I'm glad that this is my first participation in TESOL, this international conference of this type, and I'm happy to be representing Nelta in Nepal as a whole. So as I think I'll start straight away to save time. So maybe we'll have some questions at the end. So is my screen visible? Okay. All right. Well, this is the title of my talk this afternoon. Struggle Against Nonchalance, a curare on leading English in non-English context. That's particularly in Nepal. I'm not necessarily naming the university about which this talk is, but since I belong to Kathmandu University, you can guess it's Kathmandu University in particular. So this is a curare, so it's more like an autobiographical presentation. It's about my struggle, but since the idea of curare actually allows the speaker or the writer to allegorize the content, you might consider me or my story to be allegorical, a metaphorical representative of teachers working in a university, and that in a sense puts less priority towards liberal arts and the humanities. So that is the disclaimer I want to start with. Okay, so the idea of curare, simply we're all familiar with the idea of curriculum. So curare as a verb form of curriculum now in a sense refers to the action or the living aspect of the curriculum. So it's simply the concept of the individual in curriculum studies. So when we talk about curriculum, we talk about standard formal documents. It's a kind of culmination of a number of people working together to form a program. But when we talk about curare, we talk about people inside the curriculum, the students, the teachers. So I'm basically focusing on my role as a teacher at a university in Nepal, a university that focuses on technical education largely. So, and curare as a method of inquiry or discourse has to do with a person's upbringing within a curricular system, or let's say an education system, with a particular focus to the past, future, present, and the synthesis of all of these three phases of his or her life. So I'm trying to now represent an English teacher's struggle to establish himself or herself in a university where English was not or is not the priority. So the first aspect of curare is the past of the person's life. So William F. Piner has postulated 4 different phases of curare inquiry, The first is regression, referring to the past, progression, referring to the future, analysis, the kind of merging of the past and future to look at the present, and synthesis, drawing inferences about one's upbringing and curricular growth from all of these three different phases: regression, progression, analysis. So I would like to mention a few conceptualizations that Curate actually draws about a person's curricular or educational growth. The first allegory, I'm not just going into detail of these all, let's say, concepts, but some of these are very important to understand the growth of a person as a student or as a teacher. So the allegory, like standing a person's life as, understanding a person's life as an allegory, representative of similar kinds of experiences, or people having similar kinds of curricular educational experiences. And the idea of building, so that aspect of self-cultivation one actually experiences while being in a university system. And Curate also represents a complicated conversation between the curriculum, the participant of the curriculum, the student, and the teacher. So it's like looking at those aspects of education in the formal education system, which are not necessarily recorded in the document, but experienced both by the teachers and the learners. So it is a critic of one's own life, and through that lens, critiquing the education system and trying to re-experience or experience the experience that had been taken long ago. And it also, in a sense, draws a history of the struggle or the life of that learner and educator. So the historicity of experience, the orality, professorship, subject understanding. These are the basic concepts underlying the idea of curating. So I would skip some of these and move into the 4 phases of my upbringing, an allegorical, metaphorical upbringing in a university. So I would like to remember 6 interesting cases of the past. And these interesting cases I'm remembering, in a sense, recalling as I was there in that period of time. You can call it around August 2000, 23 or 24 years ago. So what was my mentality as a beginning university teacher in those days? So it is like examining my past as a re-status, re-experiencing prior, even archaic forms of life. That is the basic postulation. So like the 6 cases I want to remember is, the first one is the interview, in which one of the interviewers had asked me, why are you coming to the university as a teaching assistant by leaving a job, a position of a vice principal in a boarding school? And I had been given an impression that working at a university as a teaching assistant was somehow inferior to working as a vice principal at a boarding school. So that had given me a kind of surprise about people's understanding of university role as, let's say, a would-be professor. The kind of, let's say, maybe that represented the frustration of a person, an English teacher among scientists and engineers in those days. So the kinds of gossips I could hear in the faculty room in the beginning was like, why did you join the university leaving a decent school job at Kathmandu? There's no prospect for us in this techno-dominated institution. That's what the English teachers used to say. And I used to believe that was true in those days, because I was also, in a sense, prepared to understand my role as an insignificant individual, having only a corollary or subsidiary role of teaching English as a communication skills. So my first classes, or the initial classes, used to be half empty. Among 60 students, there used to be only 15, 20 students there. Among those who were present were also completely indifferent towards the class. And they were present there simply because they were supposed to be one of the some of the best students. And so my idea that English was taken to be a deprioritized subject at the university was, in a sense, justified by the presence of students in that way. Another aspect, like among the colleagues in science, there was a kind of belief that if you can grasp the opportunities, there were opportunities, if you could grasp. And there were no opportunities if you could not find the opportunity yourself. But among the engineering colleagues, they had a kind of, let's say, sense of nonchalance. Not only that, but also kind of ordering English teachers. Like, who is X after all? That means who is an English teacher after all? Who doesn't know English these days? So what is the role? What is the value of an English teacher? I used to think that was true about them. We used to go to the class to teach communication skills with a radio, play songs, or let's say listening scripts there, and they used to poke fun of us and make fun of us, saying, "See, Moj chha hai," means you are just having great fun in the class. You can go to the class with the radio, play songs, and that somehow meant that we did not have to work hard, but simply could make a lot of fun out of our everyday responsibility. English was like doing all casual and somehow substandard kind of activity in the class. That was how I thought they understood our role in those days. Okay. And the paradoxes English teachers actually faced in those days was like they used to come to us and say, master's degree or whatever degree you have done or whatever training you have acquired is not enough. And they used to always poke, okay, you have to do better or more or go higher, but where to go for higher studies and how? There was no any direction for us in those days. And there was very less, I think English was given a minor priority, like 6 days a week, all classes, all subjects used to be given 6 hours a week, and English in the first year was 4 hours, in the second year was 3 hours. I'm talking about the intermediate level. And yeah, the dean or the seniors would come again and say, you must progress at par with other faculties of English, sciences and engineering. But they used to give us this message that we are not a priority. So what you have is not enough. You have to progress higher, but even though you progress higher, you may take your higher education, but your education is not our priority or the university's priority. That kind of paradox or irony we very, very often faced. And the English teachers of those days tried to launch some programs in liberal arts and humanities, like MPhil in English was proposed around 1996 or 97. That was turned down. And Bachelor of Arts in English and Actuarial Science was also proposed, and that was also turned down. So in those days, it was like English teachers were inside School of Science and School of Engineering, and they were in a position to believe that their careers were almost nowhere. So that was the struggle about, and that's where we came from. So I represent that group of English teachers. Okay, now what about today and future? So the scenario has already changed. I was talking about 25 years ago or 26 years ago. That's when I joined the university, but the situation is very much different now. In those days, we used to say that there's a kind of insularity, disciplinary insularity among people of different categories of disciplines, like engineers, scientists, humanists, or let's say those from education, those from chemistry, those from English, or those from physics, or those from management. There was this kind of division. But now, as time passed and we became stronger and bigger and have our own programs and disciplinary focuses, I have begun to see that the level of nonchalance, if that was very acute in those days among people of different disciplines, somehow is reflected among English teachers now, which is implicit, but when it has to it has to be like people coming together to form a new kind of program from different locations. It's almost really difficult to bring all of these together to form a new program or think about new plans, because there have been 2 or 3 different groups of English teachers already at the university itself. So in the future, the main challenge for us as English teachers here is to break down disciplinary silos that have already emerged within the community of English teachers. Something like those who emphasize on ELT, those who emphasize on this English literature, and those who emphasize on communication studies. But there is one opportunity already emerging in the university system itself, that is to serve and consolidate the integration of arts or arts-based pedagogy, arts-based research within the framework of STEAM education that has been of emphasis in the recent years by the School of Education. And my personal emphasis is also to promote the discipline of applied rhetoric, because I specialize in rhetoric and communication. I'm working on that, but this is equally challenging because the plan is now to produce a new breed of communication scholars with a kind of transdisciplinary orientation in humanistic and communication-related trainings. Okay, so I want to see the past. We grew from having a few courses in English to having a lot of courses in English and communication, having programs that failed and programs that have succeeded. So it's been a very interesting and very productive struggle, or let's say working together, sometimes in small groups, sometimes in larger groups. So I see that we were partly mistaken in our understanding of the university and the entire curricular, or let's say, this pedagogical scenario of the time, because the university was established primarily to promote technical education in the country, basically science and engineering. Other disciplines came later, but we thought that arts and humanities were given less priority because they were misunderstood to be substandard disciplines. But later I particularly realized that since the university focus was on the enhancement of technological education, we were taken as subsidiary, or let's say a collaborating discipline, not necessarily substandard discipline. Because as human beings, as teachers or faculties, we were not that much deprioritized. Although maybe the subject was taken to be only like useful or necessary for complementing the professional training of students in the undergraduate level. So, but there was a mass motivation. I use mass motivation, quote unquote, for the university. There was a motivation for higher education. Everybody talked about going for PhD or flying abroad, or there was a kind of mutual encouragement for looking for opportunities or creating opportunities. There was focus on pedagogical enhancement. There was emphasis on marketable programs. And there was systemic intolerance towards passivity and disuse. And they always emphasized service beyond the classroom, working on the administration. There were several other such opportunities for English teachers as well. And there were opportunities to teach across technical disciplines in the applied sciences, journalism and media, nursing and paramedical, engineering, law, management, and education. So gradually we began to enjoy that usefulness of our discipline across other disciplines. That was the productive aspect of being at the university. And there were other very much enriching engagements. And I realized that ours was not the only university that appeared to, in a sense, put liberal arts and humanities in the tertiary kind of priority. And there were other universities, but they had teachers, faculties like us who struggled equally hard to establish their subjects, their disciplines. And one of these, to me, happens to be my exposure with the faculties of Birla Institute of Technology and Science, Pilani, India. And one of my PhD supervisors happens to be a professor from there with association through association with the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at BITS Pilani. I began to realize that it was not the person that really, it was not the institution that was really deprioritizing our discipline, but it was the system itself, the kind of structure created, that larger structure for the institution that that had given small niches for us to explore our positions. And it was up to us to find our positions there. And we began to work harder and create our own space or platform at the university. So there were several such opportunities. I'm not going into detail right now. So, okay. Now, within 23 to 24 years, we had been able to make a kind of tri-directional progress. In education, we could establish significant programs in the graduate and postgraduate levels, with 2 or 3 faculties struggling for years to establish disciplines within the education. In the arts and humanities, we could do almost very little about establishing programs. So we taught general English, functional English, creative writing. We tried to launch programs that failed. And beyond, means in management, engineering, and sciences, or in law, we had several professional courses in English and communication. So I can see that our discipline, English, in a sense, bifurcated, diverged in 3 different disciplines. And these are all the opportunities for all of us working at the university. But as I said at the beginning, because we have been located in different schools and different disciplinary umbrellas, we all coming together, forming new kinds of, designing new kinds of curriculum, interdisciplinary curriculum has been somehow impossible because of our now orientations in our postgraduate and PhD studies. Actually, this kind of disciplinary bifurcation was somehow natural and very much conditioned because of the need of the institution. So, but anyway, there are opportunities for newcomers. So, and this is also a kind of opportunity for all of us who are for a long time at the university to mentor people towards one of these strengths, terrains. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of my talk. So what is there if I see the present now in relation with what can be done, what was done in the past, and what can be done in the future? So I see that our beginning was somehow biased, thinking that we were, in a sense, deprioritized, had very little opportunity. And it was in those times like sailing through a big river without any rowing skills. Being an English teacher in a technology-driven university for a decade or so, we always believed that we had no career. But we found our careers there. And now I realized we were somehow crudely trained about disciplines and the prospects of our own discipline in those days. And I think everybody, about a dozen teachers working at the university, English teachers, I mean, have been, in a sense, experienced a productive transition. And that transition is has been tri-directional. I've already shown that, and there are prospects for all of us to find our own programs, our own research focuses, our own, let's say, disciplinary communities, while at the same time serving the mother discipline, let's say, English or English language teaching. And yeah, another challenge I see a kind of growth of nonchalance, means a little sense of incorporation among the English fraternity itself. And that's where the role of kind of senior faculty like myself is very much pertinent, to bring all of these different fragments of English teachers coming to come together to form new kinds of programs, new alliances for interdisciplinary initiatives. And the three teams are in need of convergence. And now I see that pertinent to our theme today, the building bridges, to me means breeze within the fraternity of English teachers itself. So I would call it creating convergence among scholars of English, because within English we have somehow diverged to different kinds of disciplinary specializations, some to ELT, some to teacher development, some to rhetoric, some to this trauma studies, some to this or some to that. So there's a kind of, I think, conditioned or natural divergence, but that is really necessary or productive in order to form new kinds of, design new kinds of curriculum, new kinds of, let's say, academic programs that the university would always mandate us to try. So I see there's a need to build convergence among ourselves inside one university and extend our collaboration and working across other universities in the country and beyond. Okay, so in that process, we developed a lot of, I personally developed a lot of alternative, let's say, teaching or pedagogical methods to train my colleagues and to get, in a sense, in touch with other teachers within NELTA or beyond. And now our focus, basically through School of Education, has been to become instrumental to teaching, training teachers from the community schools, community colleges, as part of our community engagement initiative at the university. We are doing a lot of that kind of work as English teachers, as professional developers. So I don't want to delve deeper into these aspects. Some other day, I will share these aspects with colleagues. And this is all. Thank you. I think I have not run out of time. Thank you very much. This is all.
Thank you very much, Hem. We have a question for you. How to manage stress during a transition period?
You mean stress?
From Saroy Tamang. How to manage stress during a transition period? Maybe you could clarify your question a little, Saroy?
Suraj Tamang? You mean the stress during the transition time?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. At least to me, there were different ways of managing that. When I saw that in my given situation, I could not do much, I went for higher studies. I paid my own fees and then went for MPhil. Yeah, that was like, it was better to struggle for higher studies and more training. And I realized through training that there was some kind of scarcity or some kind of limitation in myself, so that I could not do much about my own workplace. I think I answered Suraj's question.
Yes, I think so. And just some comments thanking you very much for your interesting talk. So now there will be a short break and then the next speaker at 9:40. Thank you very much. Bye. for the
Thank you,
moment.
Dr.
Bye-bye.
Kaufel. It's been a pleasure to have you here today. And as Elizabeth says, we're going to have a 10-minute break. And then we are going to welcome Dr. Rubina Khan from BELTA, that is Bangladesh, the Bangladeshi Association of Teachers of English. And I see Dr. Khan there. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
So, we have 10 minutes break, so she can set up her presentation and you can stretch a little bit. See you at 9:30.